So now what we'll do is in the previous video which I uploaded some time back, you can have a look at that, and there I've discussed about solar inverter classifications, where I've classified the inverters as standalone, direct grid feeding, and hybrid inverters. Right? And I've introduced the corresponding terminology and those kind of things. Now what we want to do is we want to discuss a little bit in more detail of these three inverters, which is falls in the category of direct grid feeding. So if you see direct grid feeding, right, it has further these three classifications. One of them is central, right? And the other one is string, and the third one is micro. Right, all of three falls under the category of direct grid feeding inverters. Some of you may not have seen the previous video, so let me quickly give you an overview of what is the direct grid feeding inverter. Essentially, direct grid feeding inverter are the inverters which are directly interconnects this PV panel to the grid, right? These are the direct grid feeding inverters. There is no battery essentially in these systems, and grid acts as a stiff voltage source, stiff AC voltage source, and you can look at this as very similar to PV DC-DC converter in a battery. Right, there also the output was a stiff voltage source, and we could control the duty cycle to manage different voltages PV, and thus achieving MPPT. And then whatever power comes out of PV due to this MPPT tracking, that anyways we discussed, there's no energy storage in the inverter much, so everything flows to the battery and charges the battery. Same thing happens with these direct grid feeding inverters, that the output is connected to the grid. So the grid maintains the voltage and the frequency, and thus the input DC voltage can be controlled by controlling the modulation index and the phase angle of the inverter, right? And once you control the DC bus voltage, then you can track MPP, then whatever power comes out flows into the grid. So it's very similar system. So this kind of thing is very popular. It's called as a direct grid feeding inverter. Now, inverter I have drawn as a black box. It could have a combination of DC-DC and inverters. It could have multiple power converters. But main thing to notice is there's no battery storage in this system. And grid, in fact, quote unquote, acts as a large battery storage or a large source or a sink. All right, now these are the three different categories within direct grid feeding inverters. One of them is central inverters, right? They are usually big inverters where you have multiple of these if you see these central inverters, there are these multiple of these inverter panels which are connected in series, right, and forms a string, and then multiple of such strings are connected, and all of this connects together and goes to a really high power inverter, right, which is this central inverter. So these central inverters are usually seen in big power plants, big power solar PV farms, and their power rating goes roughly about more than 100 kilowatt, and it can go up to 500 kilowatt and even higher these days. And this is central inverter. Now, string inverter is a little bit less, so you may have few strings, right? Not too many strings, and few, let's say 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 strings. And that goes to an inverter, which is called as string inverter, right? And this could be usually in the power range of 3 to 20 kilowatt, right? They are certainly much more famous in the bracket of 5 to 10 kilowatt, but there are products which exist outside that also. And then you have micro inverters, which are really small inverters, which which is usually one inverter for one panel, right? And it feeds, then connects to the grid. So all of them you see connects to the grid. All of them are grid feeding. And now here, because it only connects to one panel, the typical power is about 250 or 300 watt peak. But again, roughly to say, it could vary from 50 to 500 watt. Now this is the basic classification. Now, if you see, as the power level suggests, this is high power relatively, so it's usually three-phase. Microinverters are definitely single phase. String inverters are more popular as single phase, but there are also three-phase versions becoming popular in recent past. So there are both single phase as well as three phases. If you see, in general, the applications of these three inverters, right? Central inverters, I told you, it's more popular in big farms. They are usually, the inverters themselves are big and they have to be ground mounted because they have sufficient weight and so on. String inverters are popular for both farms, land mounted structures, as well as rooftops. And microinverters are usually popular in rooftop applications. I don't think, it does not make economical sense to use microinverters for creating big farms. Usually if you see cost per watt peak, right? So if it's usually in solar inverters or solar panels, we always talk about watt peak, right? Because that is the maximum solar power that it can connect to. So if you see cost per watt or cost per watt peak of a central inverter, that is lowest, and followed by the string inverter, and micro inverter has the highest. It's somewhere in between. If you see, generally this gap is small. It is there, but still it is small, and this gap is even more. And therefore, you would still might find one or two relatively bigger installations using string inverters, but you would find hardly any big installation using micro inverters. Other reason why microinverters are usually for rooftops is because if you see now here, you are doing one MPPT tracking. You have one MPPT tracker for each panel, right? So you might have watched the previous lecture on distributed MPPT. So here microinverters are by default doing the distributed MPPT. They are tracking MPPT of each and every panel, right? And therefore it makes much more sense to use microinverters for rooftop applications where the chances of shading are much more. Right? A string inverter, you see, tracks few strings, so the MPPT performance is still acceptable. Central inverter, they do have 2 to 4, MPPT trackers, but if you see in general, the individual MPPT tracking becomes less and less viable. You can always use the panel optimizers and the string optimizers, as we discussed before. But I think towards the end of that video, I discussed that although they are technically possible, sometimes they may not make economical sense. But still, a lot of large farms, therefore, because in larger farms, larger solar PV plants mounted on land, usually the shading and those effects are not that predominant. Although yes, there are situations where you may have shading, and then you have to install panel to avoid shading and so on. Okay, this is the basic category. If you talk about the panel side voltage, right? This is anyways a very low voltage. So as I think we may have discussed, so you may have to use, because your PV voltage is, let's say MPP voltage of a panel is about 20 to 30 volt, right? And you want to connect it to a high voltage grid. Usually you need to boost it by a large fraction. So the normal DC-DC boost converters are not of much use here because of their limitation in terms of the capability with which they can boost. So you use either, most of the circuits use a isolated DC to DC converter, right? And then followed by inverter. This is, the most favorable architecture. If you talk about central inverters, here we have string usually the power is large, so you can have string of much higher voltage. But usually the inverters would use IGBTs which are rated for 1200 volt, right? So because of that, the total string voltage is usually limited to 1000 volt, right? And if you see, if it's a three-phase voltage source converter, right, what will be the maximum DC voltage if the grid is 400 volt? It would be roughly, it will be peak of line-to-line voltage, right, and a little bit more than that. So it might be around, let's say, 650 or something. Now, so ideally you would expect the DC link voltage to be variable between 1000 to 650. But then these inverters can go up to as low as, I think, maybe 400 volt or something, roughly, on the DC side. So how they are able to achieve this is not using, I mean, there are now two possibilities. One is that certainly they can use individual boost converters. Plus the other possibility that they utilize is, because these are high power systems, these systems have transformer installed at the output for isolation purpose, for safety. Now these transformer turns ratio are usually selected such that even it is 400 here, then it could be a lesser voltage here, and thus you can actually go to even less voltage as low as 400 volt, right? So both possibilities exist. Transformer is anyways usually used here. There's no doubt about that. We will talk about leakage current issues in subsequent discussions, and there you guys will realize that why transformer is needed for the central inverters. So transformer is anyways there, and you can get a large MPP range using transformer turns and or DC-DC boost. Right? Usually the first approach is more popular here. Right, coming to string inverters, now you are somewhere in between. So your panel, you can make a string and you can get a reasonably higher voltage, right? These, let's say if it's a single phase system, right, your grid voltage is 230, then your DC voltage you can have anything greater or equal to, let's say, 350 volt, right? So again, let's say if you are using, you could have actually used 600 volt devices here, but even if you use higher volt device or something, so let's say if you're using 600 volt IGBTs or MOSFET, then you can go MPP from 500 to 350 anyways, and then you connect a boost, and thus allowing the panel voltage to go further low, maybe as low as 250 or 150 or something like that, right? So you get a large MPP range. If you see, this is an important consideration because the panel voltage varies. So whenever all of these three inverters, if you see and if you open the data sheet, you would see that what is the MPPT range, right, in which it can track MPP. Here, transformer is mandatory in some of the countries based on their grid codes. Some of the countries, transformer is not mandatory, right? So some places transformer is there, some places not there. Definitely, there is a use of DC to DC boost. Here, you don't need to boost by a large factor, right? So you can use one of the conventional boost also. You don't need to go with isolated DC-DC boost and so on. And if you happen to not use the transformer, then how do you solve the leakage current issues? That we'll spend a separate video on that discussion. Right, roughly that's what is the that's what about these inverters. If you have any doubt now, we will go in subsequent videos. We will go in depth of each of them, and we will see their circuit topologies, their control, other challenges, and so on. So we'll discuss each of them in much more detail now. This was just to sort of introduce you to this basic concept.